I have like 20 gigs. I'm at work now that we have basically, I get Wi-Fi there, so it's like not a big deal.
Hey, Phil, we can hear you. Very happy to hear you, but we can hear you.
Sorry.
And hello, everyone. Welcome to Menstrual Ed Period 2. We're going to get started in a couple minutes. Hi, everyone. Just testing. I want to make sure you can hear me. Amazing. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Menstrual Ed Period 2. My name is Jenna Gall, and I'm so excited to have all of you here tonight. Before we begin, I would like to start with a land acknowledgement. As a settler, in the name of truth and reconciliation, I would like to express my gratitude to the Indigenous peoples to whom this land truly belongs for allowing me to use this territory to see you all tonight. I'm coming to you from Richmond Hill, which is located on the traditional lands of the Wendat, Haudenosaunee, Anishinaabe, and Mississaugas of the Credit River peoples. These areas are covered by the Williams Treaties and Treaty 13 and fall under the Dish with One Spoon Wampum Belt Covenant, an agreement to peaceably share and care for the Great Lakes region. I encourage you all to visit native-land.ca to find out more about the Indigenous fruits of the territory on which you find yourself today. I must acknowledge my privilege as a settler on this land who has spent her life growing up and learning here. I also acknowledge that as a non-Indigenous person living in the traditional territories of other nations, I have a responsibility to learn about the histories of colonization that give me certain privileges that have been removed from the traditional peoples of this territory through legislation and acts of violence. I would like to recognize that the negative impacts of colonialism and cultural genocide are still felt today. Share the Platform acknowledges that we are all treaty peoples, including those who came here as settlers and migrants, either in this generation or in generations past, and those who came here involuntarily, particularly as a result of the transatlantic slave trade. We acknowledge the history and events that have occurred to allow us to gather today, and we must dedicate ourselves to reconcile with and advocate for those who have and continue to be harmed. Tonight, we are here to listen to a panel of some amazing students who have been active in the menstrual equity space. We will be hearing from students from elementary school all the way to post-secondary school, who will be sharing their experiences as menstruators and as menstrual equity advocates. We will also hear from a wonderful teacher who has worked tirelessly to support her students in their menstrual equity work. After the panel, we will be showcasing a short film of the audience's choosing. So I encourage you, it just popped up on the screen, to cast your vote in the poll as soon as you get a chance. Also, a friendly reminder for you folks, period 3, the final period of Menstrual Ed 101, will be taking place on Monday, November 14th. During this event, we'll be focusing on the experiences and challenges of Northern remote Indigenous communities and how they work toward menstrual equity. I would like to begin by introducing our moderator for tonight's panel, the wonderful and inspiring Jada Malott. Jada is a first-year student at the University of Windsor. She comes from an activist household where everybody is involved. She is a community activist, especially regarding matters of women's equality and menstrual equity. Jada enjoys volunteering in the community just as much as she enjoys school and schoolwork, and has just recently launched a menstrual equity nonprofit as her next step in eradicating period poverty. Jada will begin by introducing our wonderful panel, and then we'll get started on our interesting and thought-provoking discussion. Jada, please take us away.
Thank you very much. Thank you for that introduction. So again, my name is Jada Malott. I am in university now, which is really scary. That's really scary saying that out loud. Next to me is my sister, Sarah, who's also participating today. We just thought it would be more convenient to do it from one computer. So now look at two of us, which I thought was amazing. So thank you everyone for coming today. I would like to begin by thanking everyone for the Days for Girls committee. I would like to thank Jill, Kevin, Jenna, and Philip for all of their tireless work, and everyone else behind the scenes for putting together these amazing panels, not just this one, but the ones that we're going to have in the future and the ones that I've been honored to join in the past. This is my very first time moderating an open panel like this, so bear with me. I do have a lot of freedom right now in how I'm conducting this panel, so I think we're going to have some fun, especially all of the strong community leaders that we have today. Everyone is going to do an amazing job, so you know what? This is awesome first for us. So let's just take a deep breath. We're going to have a great time today, and we're going to get started. So I'm going to start with our elementary school students. And for every single panelist that I introduce, I would like for you to speak just for a couple seconds. My question to you for the start is, what has inspired you to take on a cause such as menstrual equity? So what has gotten you to this panel today? So I'm going to start with Freya. Freya Inglis Eckmeyer. She's a grade 8 student at Stratford Middle School. She started doing period equity work in grade 6. At that time, she had sent a letter to the superintendent that was in charge of the equity steering committee about the lack of small garbage cans inside each washroom stall for the disposal of menstrual products. The letter was sent on November 30th, 2020. She also expressed concern that there were no menstrual products in the washrooms at the elementary school that she had attended. She presented this issue to the Board of Trustees in the spring of 2021, very shortly after the province made the announcement regarding menstrual products in high schools. Freya, welcome.
Thank you. And now I'm going to answer the question. So as Jada said, my original cause was there weren't any installed garbage cans at my school. And so that meant that there are probably other schools in my school board that didn't have installed garbage cans. So I sent the letter to the superintendent that my mom thought was most likely interested in the cause. My mom is a teacher. And then as we worked through getting the installed garbage cans, we then decided to take on the cause of no free menstrual products in washrooms at the schools in my board. And so now there are containers in the washrooms that have our sticker on it.
Wow.
Thank you.
We are so proud of you. That is absolutely amazing for being so young. That's so inspiring. You know, that's scary for someone so young to get involved in something like menstrual equity. We all applaud you. That's absolutely amazing. Thank you, Freya. So I'm going to move on to my sister, Sarah. So Sarah's in grade 7 at an elementary school here in Windsor, Ontario. Sarah has just recently began her journey in eradicating period poverty in her community alongside myself. Sarah is a founding member as well of our nonprofit Period Product Partner, which is a nonprofit organization run by our dad, myself, and herself. So Sarah, what has inspired you to take on a cause like menstrual equity?
So I think seeing my dad and Jada being so involved in the community really inspired me. I also had a grandmother close to me who experienced period poverty. So seeing somebody so close to me experience something like that made me really care about the topic more.
Very nice. Yeah, we lost our grandmother very early in her life, so we weren't really prepared for it. And when you lose someone that close to you so quickly, you really want to find a way to honor them in a way that they would have wanted. So that's a great answer. That's perfect for Sarah. So we're going to move on to our secondary school panel. We have 4 wonderful secondary students here today. I'm going to start with Leah. So Leah Chang is a 10th grade student at Holy Trinity School. They are the head of the Feminism for Change Club and the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Council at Holy Trinity. She is passionate about social justice, period equity, and serving the greater community. Leah, go ahead.
So just to start off, I think that the thing that inspired me to take on a cause like menstrual equity is just my personal experiences with menstruation and menstrual education, and understanding sort of the disparities that people of color and members of the 2S LGBTQI plus community face when it comes to menstruation and period poverty, and being a part of some of those sort of groups has allowed me to better understand where the disparities actually are and how we're able to tackle them. So the reason that I actually applied to be the head of the Feminism for Change Club and the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Council is to sort of address those issues in a way that addresses all of those inner workings of those separate communities.
Beautiful. You speak like you have years and years of wisdom. I love it. Amazing. Thank you very much. So I'm going to move on to Annika. Annika Nayar is the assistant head of Holy Trinity School Feminism for Change Club. She is an 11th grade student, and she is passionate about social justice, equality, and fostering a welcoming and inclusive community.
Hi, so I think I became most passionate about menstrual education in grade 9 because I remember getting my first period and I remember that I knew nothing about what was happening because I was never taught anything at school. I think we might have had like 1 or 2 lessons with just the girls in my class, but we were always separated whenever we were talking about menstruation, and I never fully got a full experience. And I think like a big part of menstrual education is just like learning how to use period hygiene products. And that was something that I never learned, and I had to go and ask people and teachers that I trusted what to do because I was never aware. And I think that just made me a lot more self-aware of what was happening in the community and how nobody actually knew what was happening and how uncomfortable it could be to talk about it. And I just wanted to raise more awareness about it and make sure that it was a problem that people knew about.
Absolutely. That's a great start. Thank you very much. Stephanie Florescu is a grade 10 student at Holy Trinity School, and this year she is the outreach executive for the Feminism for Change Club at school. She is passionate about social justice, reading, and technology. Thanks, Stephanie. Go ahead.
So I'm very similar to Annika in the sense that I got my period very early and I never really learned anything about how to use feminine hygiene products, not from home or from school. And so I think that's what really started me onto kind of learning more, as especially also talking about period stigma was something that I was really interested in kind of uncovering, especially in school systems where we used to be separated in different classes with guys and girls in completely separate lessons. And I think when I started to look at that and the different stigmas that that created, I became really interested in addressing period poverty and trying to help.
Absolutely. I resonate with that too, having the girls and the boys split up in school, especially in those developmental years where it's really important to have everyone together. We didn't get that. And that's huge. That makes a big impact, right? Thank you very much. So our last secondary student is Alicia Aziz, and she's a grade 10 student at Holy Trinity School as well. She is the marketing executive of Feminism for Change, the marketing coordinator of TED Ed HTS, and the academic coordinator of the HTS newspaper. She has a love for reading and activism, especially the advocacy of marginalized communities. Thank you, Alicia. Go ahead. Uh-oh, we're having some issues, some connection issues possibly. That's okay. We'll come back if she happens to get in here. So I'm going to just move on to our teacher from Holy Trinity, and it's Katie Young. Katie is a department head of global studies at Holy Trinity School, who is passionate about diversity, equity, inclusion, and justice. Her heart work is to elevate the voices of her students, help them engage in activist work, and learn alongside them. She is also a loving mom and partner and a devoted daughter. Thank you very much, Katie.
Thank you so much for this opportunity to speak on this really important issue of equity. And I think from my perspective, that's what really brought me to this work, is that access in particular to period products is a fundamental human right, and menstrual equity is something I think that really needs to be talked about openly and honestly in our education system, so that in the future we can work towards really opening, I think, people's eyes to these issues and the impact that they can have long term on people's lives in a very real way. I think what really inspired me, though, is my students. The conversations that I have with them around menstrual equity really drives me to work on this topic in particular. Just today, I actually had, this is probably the 5th separate conversation that I've had around menstrual equity. And so elevating student voices to be able to work and advocate towards solving issues around menstrual equity is super important, because it is certainly something that is on their minds at the forefront through the 4 years that I've been teaching this social justice class.
Absolutely. We need more teachers like you, truly. Thank you very much. So we also have a post-secondary student here today, Mahima Patel. And Mahima has actually recently joined Days for Girls Canada to advocate for menstrual equity in Canada. So I'm going to let her take it away. Go ahead, Mahima. Thank you very much for being here today.
Thank you so much for having me. To answer your question, my sort of menstrual health and equity journey started when I first got my period and tried to open up to my parents about, being more open to certain conversations when it came to access to pads and tampons, for example. And I knew it wasn't right when I felt uncomfortable talking to them about something that's completely normal, completely healthy, especially the relationship that I have with my father being so close that it just felt very weird and unnormalized to talk about something that women are felt so insecure about. And I feel like normalizing that is part of my journey and part of the reason that I'm here. So having access to those materials that I obviously needed when I got my period, not only through my parents at home, but asking facilities, schools, and especially now that I'm in university, still not having that access within my community buildings is something that I would like to even push for. So whether it's in community buildings, schools, or universities, it's something that all women are entitled to have. So I feel like the stigma is where it starts, and then we can sort of end off with normalizing the access that we have towards them. And that's something that I am truly, truly passionate about. So
Right on. And that's actually a great segue into our main panel, what you said with the stigma, because I feel ending stigma is such a huge hurdle and it sounds very scary, but I think one of the starts that we have, like a solid start, is education. And that's why we have this panel today. We really want to learn, what kind of education is available to our elementary students, and then how does that kind of snowball into the stigma in high school, what students have access to in post-secondary, so it's a huge aspect of eradicating period poverty. So I really want to get into the meat of this now, because I'm very excited to hear what everyone has to say. I'm going to start with our teacher. So I'm going to start with you, Katie, if you don't mind. I want to know, from your knowledge, how is menstruation taught in school? So what grade, like when do you get into it? When is it detailed? How detailed is it? So go right ahead. Thank you very much.
Thanks for that great question. I looked that up actually today. I have a son who is 12 years old. So we talk about menstruation and menstrual equity and when does he learn about it. And we're fairly open about it. But I was really interested because I work a lot with phys ed teachers who have conversations in their classroom and teach about issues around sex ed and puberty. But as a high school teacher, I didn't really know when in the curriculum the conversation is actually supposed to start. So I looked that up today, as I said, and it actually says in grade 5 is when conversations really begin in earnest about menstruation in the classroom. So that's, probably at about the age of 9. I'm not doing my math really well, I think. No, 10. Thank goodness I don't teach math. And so the conversations begin then. I know from what my son has said in the research that a lot of my students have done in the past few years around period equity and conversations around education about menstruation, that it's very kind of broad strokes. Conversations about how it happens from a physical standpoint as opposed to a social justice standpoint. So in our class, we talk more about access. We talk about the fact that menstruation is not just something that women do. It can also, those who identify as women, that it's much more broader than that. And what are the potential health issues that might surface because of lack of access to period products, and what it can be like. I know a lot of conversations have happened in our class regarding what it can be like to be in a class where there's shame or stigma associated with menstruation. So for us, it's more like conversations not about like the mechanics of menstruation, if that makes sense, but more so about what are the issues that are associated with not having open and honest conversations.
That's amazing. And that's huge too. I really like how you put that, like a mechanical approach or a social justice approach. So I do want to jump to our elementary students now to see how that kind of reflects the education that they've received. So I'll start with Freya. If you just want to let us know, what kind of education have you received in elementary school about menstruation, and how comfortable are your classmates in approaching these kinds of conversations?
So personally, I did not receive much, if any, just lost it. If any, like education around periods and menstruation and all of that, because we were supposed to learn about it and we went online because of COVID, and then we never learned about it and we never went over it in grade 7 or grade 8. And so it was an entirely skipped over topic. And so like we spent almost no time on it. But the girls in my class are very comfortable talking about menstruation. Sometimes like before gym or lunch, there will be multiple girls in the washroom from the same class. And so sometimes one of the girls will ask one of the people who are waiting for the washroom to grab them a pad or a tampon, and we'll happily do that.
And I'm just curious, I have another question. What would students at your school do before there were disposal garbage cans available in the stalls, if you have any awareness of what they do with those products?
Before that, we had like the garbage cans where you put the paper towels in. That's what we would have had. That's what we had to use before.
Wow. Okay. Well, thank you for your answer. I was just very curious about that. Yeah, but
Yeah.
that's huge. Not learning about that during COVID, like, like I think Sarah might have a little bit of a different perspective because she's a year younger. So I'm gonna ask Sarah the same question. So during COVID, did you learn about menstruation?
I think we started learning about menstruation in our sex ed unit before we went online. We did have some knowledge on it, but we didn't spend too much time on it. All we really learned was the like development during puberty and when to expect it and what it was, but it wasn't touched on as much as I think it should have been.
Right. So both of you never really approached it like what Katie said from a social justice standpoint, if at all, because I know Freya said she didn't get much at all. Wow. So very interesting. And that's huge. Even me as well. Did you have boys and girls in your classroom together?
Yes.
Okay. So I didn't have that. Freya, I know you said that the separated. And that's huge, like Freya, how are the boys talking about menstruation? Do they talk about it at all?
No, they don't talk about it at all. We were before COVID, so we were supposed to get separated, boys and girls, and so we could ask questions more specific to our bodies, and it would be more comfortable as we had a male and a male teacher and a female teacher that we were all very comfortable with. But it's seen by the boys as like almost like a joking matter.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's a great way to lead into our high school students. I'm going to move on. So if any of the four young women that want to jump in and answer the question, go right ahead if you have an answer. So what I want to hear from our high school students, do you notice stigma? Do you notice any negative stereotyping associated with periods among people from your age group? So this could be anything from to the extent in which periods, like saying, oh, are you mad period? Like, do you hear that a lot in your secondary schools? Anyone that wants to jump? Anyone wants to jump in? If anyone has anything to say, you can go ahead.
If I could just jump in here.
Sure.
I think I'm not speaking for everyone in my grade, but I just from what I've noticed so far in our community, I think that as much although the school is doing so much work in order to sort of break down those barriers and talk more about periods and menstruation to reduce the stigma, I think that there still is a lot of stigma, especially when it comes to like biological men in our grade that tend to speak about menstruation in a way that is like Freya said, it's sort of in a joking manner, or it's stigmatized to the point where it's not really talked about at all, because there are still so many social barriers, not in our school, but in the greater community that need to be addressed before we're able to openly talk about menstruation. And although like with us menstruators, we kind of talk about it with each other because it's a shared experience that we have. But with those in our grade that don't menstruate, I find that it is still quite stigmatized just because of the social barriers that they may face. And I don't know, maybe they feel awkward talking about it, or they feel that their friends will make fun of them if they speak about it. But I still think that there is a certain level of stigma when it comes to talking about periods.
Exactly. If anyone else wants to jump in, I do have another question though, because this is very juicy.
If I could just jump in really quick.
Sure, go ahead.
Leah, I completely agree with you, and I think Freya's right. Most of the boys kind of talk about it in a joking manner, and this is something that we were talking about with Miss Young in social justice class, I think a couple weeks ago. So we're doing like action plans, and one of the groups is planning on installing feminine hygiene boxes in each stall, as Freya was doing in her middle school, because they removed them from the girls' washrooms. And we were talking about how they should put them in the gender neutral bathrooms, but also in the male bathrooms. But when we were talking about that, we were thinking, and it's if menstruation products and feminine hygiene boxes were installed into bathrooms, male bathrooms in particular, they'd be used in a joking manner and they wouldn't take it seriously. And I feel like most anybody who menstruates that doesn't identify as a female would feel uncomfortable being in a situation like that, because it's just so stigmatized and so made fun of for no reason. And I think that's just, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I can reflect on that too. Having that conversation with the males, biological males in my school, a possibility before the province announced that these men about the possibility of it, and they thought it was a joke. And it's sad, but it really, like, that's why I wanted to from the elementary students first. It's a gradual snowballing process, like from these developmental years, these periods, they have no idea of to the extent and how it can affect anybody. It's huge. So yeah, thank you very much for the two who chipped in. I do have another question. So yes, Ontario glitchy. Thank you very much. I hope it gets better. I have really bad student to pitch in a free menstrual product them yet, or has experiences from before they've been able to these dispensers. How easy was it to have them in the bathroom? Did you have them in a school at all? No. Oh, how I can share. Close out a bunch of my tabs. And just let me know if that's a little better, because I did have a midterm today, so I have lots of tabs open. Let me know, everybody. I'm so sorry. Okay, this might help a little bit. Okay, how are we doing for connection? Is it a little better? It's better? Okay, great. Okay, I just closed out a whole bunch of tabs. So my question was, for the secondary students, before you had like better access to menstrual products, thanks to the government implementing these in our schools, or if you don't have them yet, if you have any experiences from before, as I just mentioned, what was it like accessing menstrual products in your school? Did you have access to them at all? I know these are all students from one school. So if one student wants to chip in, just let me know really quickly. What was your access like at school? Hopefully you could have heard me just then.
I can attempt to speak to it. From what I remember before we had pads, I don't think we had access to them at all in a public space. I think it was mostly if you managed to forget your things at home, you would have to either go to a teacher you trusted. I know they had some extra ones in the gym office, and that was something that was regularly told to students that if you forgot them, just come and see the teacher and they'll have some extra ones for you, or mostly just asking a friend. I don't think we had them in a place where you could necessarily go and grab them until they were added to the washrooms recently.
Thank you. Yeah, that's similar to me as well. Didn't have them at all. And if we did get any in, it was usually the male secretary that you had to ask for a product, which can be a very ostracizing situation for anybody, even myself. You know, I don't even think I'd want to do it. And I'm the period queen at my school. Everyone knew that. So thank you very much. My last question before I move on to Mahima is again for our high school students. And I just want to kind of end this on a more positive note. What changes are needed regarding mental health education in our schools? So what can we do to improve that? That's okay. If anyone has an answer, go right ahead.
If I could just pitch in here, I think that specifically at our school, I remember in the past, like when I was in fourth, fifth grade, the boys and the girls were separated to talk about, you know, puberty, sex ed, and periods and things like that. And girls were taught about abstinence and how periods work, and boys were given a totally different conversation, which I know that at our school, in particular and specifically, that has recently been changed. But I know that that's not the case for all schools across Ontario and Canada and things like that. And especially when it was like separating the genders, it made it extremely awkward for those students that identified as non-binary or were assigned male at birth or assigned female at birth, but were put into, you know, the wrong gender, you know, sort of separation, and they were taught totally different things. So the boys section was not taught about periods whatsoever. So I think that when it comes to menstrual health education in schools generally, teaching everyone about menstruation and sex ed and teaching them equally is extremely important, because there will be disparities if a certain group is taught certain things and another group is taught other things. So that's just my opinion.
Absolutely. That's very true. Okay. Thank you very much. Any other high school students have anything to say there before I move on? All right, so I'm gonna move over to Mahima. So I know that she spoke a little bit about what her access is like at her university, but if you just wanted to reiterate, my general question is, what is a step that you'd like to take? So what could be improved about accessing menstrual products on campus? And even what are the opinions of other students? You know, has this been something that's been brought to attention yet?
Um, my years since I've been back, have those like veterans almost for menstrual products. I about just so much fun. There's
I think we lost the sound too. Did she jump out for a second, maybe to test her connection? It was very glitchy. That's okay. Hopefully she comes back because I really wanted to hear.
I'm so sorry. My internet.
Oh no, okay. We can hear you a little bit better now. It's still pretty glitchy. Sometimes if you have a lot of tabs open, sometimes closing those tabs can help. Your video off too.
Maybe I can just leave my audio off. Does that work?
That's so much better. So much better.
Okay, perfect. I don't know where I left off, but I was mainly just
start right from the
discussing
beginning.
that. Oh, okay, that works too. I was mainly just discussing how products in high school for me were very expensive, and I know they had those vending machines for us within our washrooms, 25 cents for a pad, and then $1 for tampons. And knowing that myself and my friends and my peers did not carry change on us, those were essentially useless to us. And now coming to university, an institution of higher education, and a place with exponential funding from international students, and a place where there's so much to do than universities, such as tax benefits and whatnot from the government, that there's still no adequate access to menstrual products for girls. And campaigns at my school that focus directly on this issue, and there's valid change, that I think that it's just the ignorance behind menstrual awareness. And I feel like it's not a priority for my specific university. I can't speak to any other universities, but I do know that it's high on the priority list. And as a result, people like myself and my friends do not benefit. And they're not cheap, as all of us speak to, or most of coming from by knowledge problem, and then works to provide a place where people can go and access the materials versus change to occur. So that's my site.
Thank you very much. It was a little glitchy for me at the end, but I got most of it. And you're 100% right. Same thing at my university. The products are very expensive in the dispensers. They're 25 cents. I think the tampons are 50 cents. And like, come on, like we're 18 to 22 years old, most of us. We don't carry quarters on us anymore. Like I'm expecting to turn my Apple Watch on and tap it on the dispenser. We don't carry coins anymore. They're expensive, you know. We need those free dispensers. That's the biggest part. So thank you very much. We're kind of nearing the end. So I wanted to kind of tie this all together because we have this amazing group of activists in here that have obviously found their way into the menstrual equity world in some way or another. But school is such a perfect place for this to start. So I wanted to bring it back to our teacher, to Katie. And I really wanted to hear you, mention and really reiterate again, how much of a difference have you really noticed in students' knowledge about menstruation and their openness in discussing menstruation from the approach that you as a teacher have taken in your classroom?
Oh, that's a great question. Well, I know that the Feminism for Change group, which is the number of students that are here today are representatives of that group. They started this journey to ensure that everybody at our school had free access to period products. Probably now it's 2 years ago. And since that time, and of course, our school administrators were incredibly supportive because it really, I think, opened their eyes to thinking about this as like a fundamental human right. And once it was framed in that perspective, our head of school was like, of course, these things should be free, which was amazing. But since we've really had those products free, it really kind of snowballed conversations around period equity in our school. And people are much more open to having these conversations. As I said, I really legitimately had 5 separate conversations with 5 different student groups just today around period equity and access to period products. But I think what's really important is that those conversations occurred in really safe places where people felt that it was okay to have open discussions about those things. And so one of the groups that is working in my social justice class this year is really going to be focusing on the idea of how do we reduce stigma, which is a lot of your panelists today really talked so passionately and fantastically about that. So I think coming at it from an equity perspective, from a social justice perspective, is very important. So couching the conversations in that, and couching the conversations in from the perspective that these issues are human rights issues, I think goes a long way. Involving students in spreading the word and being activists is extremely important. But I think really reducing the stigma is a very important next step.
Thank you. So it's possible, people. It's possible. It's possible. Thank you so much, Katie. This was absolutely amazing. I'm going to wrap it up now. I want to thank everyone for coming out today. I want to thank Freya and Sarah, and I'd also like to thank Leah and Annika and Stephanie and Katie and Mahima for coming out today and telling us about their experiences. You are all going places. Oh my, especially our younger students, Freya and, well, I mean, maybe my sister. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. Both of you young ladies, you're doing an amazing job, and don't stop. Don't let anyone get you down. High school is an interesting place with a lot of interesting opinions. Don't let it get you down. And our secondary students, you're killing it. Again, don't let those opinions of those people that haven't had an adequate education get you down. You are rocking it. Mahima, you're going to make big changes too. Do that, girl. I'm so proud of you. And like, as a secondary student
Thank you so
myself,
much.
of course, you're doing a great job. As a university student myself too, that's what I want to do. It might be a little bit farther down the road because I haven't taken a midterm in 2.5 years. So I got to get past that hurdle first. But after that, it's game. And thank you so much, Katie, for everything that you've done for students. Like I said, you have made it possible. You have opened the gates for an entire new generation of period activists. So thank you very much. I'm going to hand it off now, I believe, to Jenna or to Jill. Then they're going to take it away from here. Thank you very much.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for sticking around and listening to our wonderful, wonderful panelists and our wonderful moderator, Jada. Jada, you covered everything so well, but thank you again to everyone who's been here participating and listening tonight. I'm so inspired by you all and how much you've accomplished in your short lifetimes. And I'm so grateful for teachers like Katie and my own mentors, Phil Wahida and Kevin and Jill from Days for Girls and Red Dot Project. I'm so grateful to have been able to engage in this experience with you all. And I truly feel hopeful for the future of the menstrual equity movement after participating in tonight's event. So we'll now be sharing the link to November's event in the platform, or November's Share the Platform event in the chat. And we hope that you'll all be there. It's November 14th, which is a Monday from 7 to 8 p.m. And it seems that from our poll, our audience was most excited to see Blood Normal. So we'll be starting that shortly. Enjoy.
Many boys who have understood it.
It's just like when the
There's this thing like sheds, and it yeah comes out.
If it's your first time, then it's like a nightmare. Sometimes I cry for the reason. I don't know what it is, but I just cry.
The old egg, if it hasn't
Being fertilized.
yeah, and then it like goes.
Some kids my age don't know what it is.
Do you think you can control it when you wee?
You've got 2 different holes down there.
Oh my god, he just knows everything, doesn't he?
How often does a period happen?
I'm not sure, I don't know.
It just comes like once every month, doesn't it?
How much fluid do you think girls lose each period?
Well, it feels like that much.
Yeah.
It's not just like a waterfall, is it?
Wait, tell me when to stop then.
I don't know if it'll be more though.
Yeah, so just 3 cups.
That one, yeah.
What happens if you do a handstand during your period? Like, it's just like...
Wouldn't that look like shoot up like a volcano or something?
Mainly you feel really awkward. Just a bit uncomfortable and not really want to talk about it, because then they just end up laughing about it.
Boys don't know as well as girls, so I think they just make a bit of a joke out of it.
So I probably have been teased once or twice just by boys in passing. If you're grumpy or anything, they say, it's that time of the month.
I've seen people be teased and it just made her feel like really, really terrible for like the rest of the day, for the rest of the week.
You feel very alone.
You don't talk about your period and it's like a club with your friends.
My friendship group, we call it Patricia. So it's like a little name so no one really knows what we're talking about. It's kind of obvious.
I'd feel like I've done something wrong to them to like make them not feel comfortable.
$1,000?
1,000, 2,000?
50,000.
You never know if someone's like they're fine where you're joking like outside, but you never know like what's happening like on the inside.
Making a joke is just a way for us to get, a little bit more comfortable in the situation.
They've sort of been conditioned to think like that, and that I think shows a gap in the education system as well.
Where would someone go at school to get a product?
Ask the teacher for one.
I didn't know you could get them at school.
You can get condoms for free, so why can't you get pads for free?
Period pads.
This is a pad, I'm pretty sure it's like a big one.
What is this?
Is that sticky stuff? Sticky.
My friends are all going through it at the same time, so I just get the information from them, so they all talk about it, and I just kind of learn about it too.
School don't choose to focus on it too much.
They didn't explain what we'd be going through and how to handle it. They were just like, this is how you put on a pad.
School, they don't really do much.
They tell you about how periods happen, but they don't tell you how you can help. They do the science of it.
The girls got to talk, but we haven't been told anything.
Yeah.
That's the same in my school.
We always like split the boys and girls up, which is really annoying because
that's what makes it
like
awkward.
I don't think anyone should be embarrassed about talking at boys nor girls.
Would you be comfortable talking about periods in front of girls?
Yeah, I think it's more about how it's necessary than being comfortable with it.
When we teach girls about periods, boys should be involved.
We should be equally as aware.
Then they'd know what a girl has to go through.
I wouldn't feel so awkward talking to them about it if I needed help.
I'd like them to know a lot more.
Guys should be able to understand what's happening without making a joke.
Everyone should learn about it. It's just like learning maths.
I am transgender. I never openly said to any of the guys, any of the girls that I was trans. They just kind of like accepted that I was like one of the guys on the panel. I absolutely think that boys and girls should be taught together, because whether it's their lives or not, they're going to be around people that are going through different stuff, the same stuff, because everyone should be able to feel comfortable talking about what they need to talk about.
Wow, what an amazing film. It truly highlights the gaps in knowledge and awareness around menstruation and how harmful stigma can be. I hope that this video and our panel discussion tonight have inspired you all to learn more and to get active in the menstrual equity movement. For students especially, I hope that you feel that this is something that you can accomplish and that's within your reach, because I truly believe in the power of each and every one of you. Thank you all again so much for attending tonight. And just one final little plug, we will have our period 3 of Menstrual Ed 101 on Monday, November 14th from 7 to 8 p.m., which will be focusing on Indigenous perspectives of menstruation and menstrual equity, as well as some of the challenges faced regarding menstrual equity in Northern, remote, and Indigenous communities. Thank you all again and have a fantastic night.
That was awesome, you guys.
Thank you.
Woohoo! You all are exceptional. You killed it. I'm so proud of you.
It was really, really excellent.
Great work.
I wish we had 2 hours.
You could have talked for 2 hours about this,
right?
Sure. Yes. Yes.
I have to go. Bye.
Thank you
Good
so
night.
much, Freya.
Good night,
Thank you.
everybody.
Night,
everybody.
Okay, bye. Thank you so much for having me. Thank you for letting me do this. Midterm number 2 now.
You got this.
Oh, this one's a little scary. We'll see.
Jada, you can do anything you set your mind to. I've met you twice.
Oh my God, thank you.
Kick so much butt, girl.
Thank you, Jenna. Thank you for everything.
Of course.
Bye. Have a good night.
See you.
Bye.
Bye.
Great work, Jenna. Oh, she's gone. All right. Later, Kevin. See you later.